They thought she was just a quiet diner waitress, until they realized she wasn't someone to mess with. What they didn't know? She's married to the president of the Hells Angels. And tonight, they're about to find out the hard way. The sun was sliding behind the low Arizona hills, painting the sky in streaks of amber and rust. The kind of desert twilight that made the heat finally surrender, leaving behind a lazy hum of cicadas and the distant growl of a truck along Route 89. Inside the Copper Spur diner, the air smelled of fresh coffee and fried onions. Neon lights flickered on the sign outside. Open 24 hours, buzzing faintly against the quiet. Maggie wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time. Her apron was clean, her blonde hair tied neatly behind her head, a few loose strands catching the glow of the overhead light. She looked calm, the kind of calm that comes from learning to live small, to blend in, to avoid attention. The regulars knew her as polite, steady, always ready with a smile. But under that softness was something else. A quiet power. It had been 7 years since Maggie left her old life. A world of leather jackets, rumbling engines, and long nights under desert stars. She'd walked away from that world to start over, to be someone new. The bell over the door jingled. 3 men stepped in. Dusty boots, denim vests, patches with a green serpent coiled around a skull. The Iron Serpent's MC. Their laughter filled the small space, sharp and arrogant. Maggie felt the shift immediately. The air grew tight. The regulars kept their heads down. "Evening, sweetheart," one of them said, sliding onto a stool near the counter. His beard was patchy, his smile wide and mean. "How about a coffee, and maybe your number to go with it?" Maggie smiled politely. "Coffee I can do. Sugar's on the counter." The second biker leaned in, eyeing her name tag. "Maggie, huh? Pretty name for a pretty lady." The cook, Charlie, peeked from the kitchen, nervous eyes darting between Maggie and the bikers. "You want me to call—" She gave a small shake of her head. "It's fine, Charlie." She poured the coffee, steady hands, unshaken voice. Years ago, she'd dealt with far worse than 3 drunk bikers. But the lead one, the one with the snake tattoo curling up his neck, didn't like being ignored. He grabbed her wrist as she set the cup down. "Hey, I'm talking to you, doll." The diner went silent. Even the old jukebox seemed to pause. Maggie turned her eyes toward him, clear, icy blue. "Let go," she said softly. He grinned, squeezing tighter. "Or what? You going to call your boyfriend?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Something like that." The door opened again. A couple of truckers walked in. The biker released her, muttering under his breath. Maggie smiled at the new customers like nothing happened, her hand steady as she filled their cups. But Charlie could see the tension in her jaw, the pulse in her neck. When the bikers left, one of them slapped her tip jar hard enough to spill coins across the counter. "We'll be back for that number, sweetheart." She didn't reply. After closing, Maggie stepped outside. The desert air was cool, dry, heavy with dust. In the distance, she could still hear the echo of motorcycle engines fading into the night. She took a deep breath, rolled up her sleeve, and looked at the tattoo on her wrist, a faint angel's wing inked in fine detail. She touched it gently. It wasn't just art, it was identity, a past she had buried deep. Morning came too early. Maggie brewed coffee, wiped tables, greeted the morning crowd like always. But her mind was elsewhere. The Iron Serpents had been growing bold lately, drifting closer to towns once considered neutral ground. She'd heard talk from truckers, whispers from bikers passing through. Something was shifting in the underworld. By noon, the heat was back, thick and blinding. The bell over the door jingled again. They were back, 6 of them this time. The leader, the one with the serpent tattoo, smirked as he took off his shades. "Told you we'd be back, Maggie." Charlie froze at the grill. "You fellas want trouble? Go find it somewhere else." "Relax, old man," one of them sneered. "We're just here for pie." They spread out, boots thudding, chairs scraping, taking up space that wasn't theirs. Maggie's hand brushed against her pocket, not for a weapon, for her phone. One name stared back at her: Rex Donovan. She hesitated. She hadn't called him in years, not since she walked away. The leader noticed her glance. "Who you callin', sweetheart?" He snatched the phone from her hand. "Rex, that your man? Let me say hi." He laughed, scrolling. "Oh, look, Steele. What kind of name's that?" The room went still. Charlie dropped a spatula. The truckers at the far booth exchanged glances. "You should give that back," Maggie said quietly. He grinned. "Or what? You gonna hit me with a coffee pot?" Maggie leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, but I'd hate to see what happens if he finds out." The biker squinted. "What's that supposed to mean?" She didn't answer, just stared him down until he laughed nervously and tossed the phone back. When they left this time, the laughter didn't sound so confident. Charlie finally exhaled. "Mags. Who's Steele?" She looked out the window, where the desert stretched endlessly beneath a red sky. "My husband," she said softly. Charlie blinked. "Your what?" She gave a small, tired smile. "He runs a motorcycle club, a big one." "How big?" Her eyes hardened. "The biggest." That night the sound came before the sight, a low rumble, deep and rhythmic, like thunder rolling across the earth. Maggie stepped outside, heart pounding. A convoy of motorcycles emerged from the darkness, headlights cutting through dust and night, black and chrome, red patches on their vests. At the front rode a massive man with silver streaks in his beard and a scar over his eyebrow. His presence alone demanded silence. He pulled up to the curb, engine still idling. Maggie didn't move. "Been a while, Maggie," he said finally, his voice low and rough. She looked up, meeting his gaze. 7 years. Rex Steele Donovan swung off his bike. "Heard some punk's been bothering my wife." Maggie's jaw tightened. "It's handled." He chuckled, humorless, deep. "You always say that." He turned, motioning to his men. "Where are they?" "Gone," she said. "And you're not bringing your war to this diner." Steele's eyes narrowed. "You think I'd let someone touch you and walk away?" "I'm asking you to." He studied her, the tough edge softening. "Still stubborn as hell." She smiled faintly. "Still hard-headed as ever." He took her hand, tracing the faint wing tattoo. "You were the best thing that ever came out of that life, Mags. And that's exactly why I left." Steele looked at the diner, the flickering sign, the life she'd built in his absence. "You happy here?" She nodded. "Peaceful." He sighed, turning back to his men. "All right, boys, we ride out." The Angels revved their engines one by one, the roar echoing through the empty town. Before leaving, Steele looked back at her. "You ever need me? Just flick that sign twice. I'll come." She nodded, eyes glistening under the neon glow. As the convoy disappeared into the night, Maggie stood alone outside the diner. The hum of the engines faded, replaced by the soft buzz of desert insects. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, half prayer, half warning. Let it be over. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Because out there, beyond the hills, the iron serpents were watching, and they weren't done yet. The desert didn't sleep that night. Beneath the same wide sky where Maggie once felt safe, a storm was gathering, not of rain, but of revenge. 30 miles south, in a rundown garage off the interstate, the iron serpents gathered around a flickering fluorescent light. The smell of oil, smoke, and cheap whiskey hung heavy. The leader, the one with the serpent tattoo, paced with a restless fury. His name was Duke, and he wasn't used to being humiliated. "She made a fool out of us," he snapped, slamming his fist against the hood of a rusted Harley. "And then Steele shows up? You all know who that is?" One of the younger bikers, jittery and unsure, shook his head. Just some old dude, right? Duke leaned close, his eyes wild. That old dude runs the biggest outlaw MC in the country. You don't cross the angels unless you got a death wish. So we drop it? Another muttered. Duke sneered. No, we don't drop it. We finish it. He looked at the men around him. That woman made us look weak. The serpents ain't weak. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert. Distant, ominous, as if nature itself disapproved. Back at the diner, Maggie couldn't shake the tension. Even with the morning rush, she felt eyes on her. Every time the doorbell rang, her stomach tightened. But she carried on. Coffee, orders, smiles. Pretend normalcy was her armor. Charlie noticed. You didn't sleep, did you? She shrugged. Didn't feel like it. He lowered his voice. That guy, Steele. He really your husband? She nodded. Long story. You think he'll come back? I hope not, she said quietly. If he does, it means trouble found us first. That afternoon, the diner was nearly empty when a familiar sound broke the peace. Engines, low and slow, rolling up the road. Maggie looked out the window. The iron serpents. 10 bikes this time. Charlie reached for the phone. I'm calling the sheriff. Don't, she said. Mags, don't. She untied her apron, set it on the counter, and walked outside. The heat shimmered off the asphalt. Dust swirled as the serpents parked in a semicircle in front of the diner. Duke dismounted, his grin poisonous. Afternoon, sweetheart. Hope you don't mind uninvited guests. I mind, she said calmly. He laughed. We just came to talk. Then talk. He stepped closer. You embarrassed my crew, and you brought the angels down here. Bad move. They came because they still respect me, she said, voice even. He tilted his head. You talk big for a waitress. Maggie smiled faintly. You talk loud for a dead man. The men behind him shifted. Nervous laughter. The air crackled, not with heat, but with the sense that something irreversible was about to happen. Before Duke could respond, the distant thunder of engines rolled in again, louder, heavier. Every serpent turned toward the sound. Maggie's heart sank and lifted at once. Steele was back. The convoy of angels roared into view, 30 bikes deep, a wall of chrome and defiance. They surrounded the diner like a silent, disciplined army. No shouting, no chaos, just presence. Steele dismounted first. His boots hit the ground like the sound of judgment. He looked from Duke to Maggie. I told you to leave her be. Duke spat on the ground. You think you can ride into every town and throw your weight around? This ain't your turf. Steele's tone didn't rise, but it carried. Every town she's in is my turf. A low growl went through the angels. The serpents shifted uneasily, suddenly aware of the numbers against them. Maggie stepped between them. Stop it, both of you. Steele's jaw tightened. He put his hands on you. And I'm still standing, she said. But if this turns ugly, nobody walks away clean. That's not who I am anymore. For a long moment, the two men just stared at each other, one powered by rage, the other by restraint. Finally, Steele stepped back. You got 5 minutes to disappear, Duke. If I see your colors again, I'll make you wish you hadn't been born. Duke's lips curled into something between fear and defiance. You think you scare me? Steele leaned in close. No, but she should. Duke's eyes flicked to Maggie, calm, unreadable Maggie, and for a moment, he saw something in her expression that chilled him more than all the guns and engines around. He motioned to his men. We're leaving. The serpents rode off in a cloud of dust, spitting curses over their shoulders. When they were gone, Steele turned to Maggie. You shouldn't have to deal with this, she sighed. That's what I get for pretending peace lasts forever. He reached for her hand. Come back with me. You don't have to be alone out here. She shook her head. I built something here, Rex. I serve coffee, not chaos. He gave a faint smile. Still stubborn. Still love me? She teased, just enough to break the tension. Always, he said simply. She looked at the horizon, red dust rising where the serpents had gone. This isn't over. I can feel it, he nodded. Then I'll stick around. No, she said firmly. If you stay, they'll come back armed. If you leave, maybe they think I'm just a memory. Steele hesitated, torn between protection and respect. Finally, he nodded. All right, but you call me if anything moves. I will. He kissed her forehead gently. You always were tougher than the rest of us. And smarter, she added with a smirk. He laughed, swung back on his bike, and with a roar of engines, the angels vanished down the road once more. That night, the diner closed early. Maggie sat alone at the counter, staring at the reflection of neon lights in her coffee. Charlie locked up the back door. You think they'll stay gone? Maggie didn't answer. Her gaze drifted to the window and the faint glint of a motorcycle headlight on the distant ridge. They're watching, she whispered. Charlie swallowed hard. Then what do we do? She stood slowly, her hand brushing the switch for the neon sign, Copper Spur Diner. She flicked it twice, just as Steele had told her to. The sign blinked twice, then steadied. Charlie frowned. What was that for? Insurance, she said softly. Out there, in the dark miles beyond the town, Steele's convoy was still rolling slow. When he saw the faint double flash of the neon light, he throttled down. He turned to his second in command. She just called me home. The man nodded grimly. Then home we go. Back in the diner, Maggie locked the door, turned off the lights, and walked toward the back storage room. She opened an old wooden chest hidden behind crates of flour and coffee beans. Inside was a folded leather vest, her old one, Hell's Angels, bottom rocker, Arizona, top rocker, First Lady. She ran her fingers over the patches, remembering the years of road and rebellion, love and loss. Then she took it out, draped it over a chair, and sat beside it in silence. Tomorrow would bring the storm. She could feel it, in her bones, in the stillness, in the way the desert held its breath. When it came, she wouldn't run. The desert night was alive with shadows. A faint breeze carried the scent of sand, gasoline, and tension. Inside the Copper Spur Diner, Maggie moved quietly, her heels soft against the tile floor. The place was nearly empty, just her and a few late-night travelers, sipping coffee, reading newspapers, oblivious to the danger approaching. Outside, the rumble began again, deeper this time, sharper, carrying a sense of recklessness. The Iron Serpents were back. Duke and his crew had returned under the cover of darkness, larger and angrier than before. They parked their bikes haphazardly in front of the diner, boots kicking up dust. Maggie's pulse quickened. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't need one. She had something far more dangerous, intelligence, presence, and a reputation they didn't fully understand. The door burst open. Duke's grin was feral. Evening, sweetheart. Thought we'd finish what we started. The serpents fanned out, blocking the exits. Customers froze, fear etching their faces. Maggie took a deep breath. Calm. She raised her voice, steady and clear. You're in my diner. You leave now, or you'll regret it. Duke laughed. You? You think you can... A sudden click of the neon sign outside caught his attention. Maggie had flicked it twice, their secret signal. Within moments, a low hum of engines rolled in from the desert. Steele and the Hell's Angels. The Angels formed a wall outside, a disciplined formation of black leather and chrome, illuminated by the diner's flickering neon. Steele stepped forward, calm but commanding. Step away from her, he said. His voice carried over the serpents like a hammer. Duke's grin faltered. He looked back at Maggie, eyes narrowing. She met his gaze with unwavering calm, her blue eyes flashing with silent warning. This is your last chance, she said. The serpents hesitated, Their bravado began to crack under the weight of reputation and steel-cold authority. But Duke was desperate. He drew a small knife, waving it threateningly. "I said we finish this." Maggie didn't flinch. She stepped forward, placing herself between him and the few frightened patrons. "You don't finish anything tonight. Not by fear, not by violence. You leave, or you'll leave broken and humiliated. And I won't hesitate." The words struck harder than fists. Duke hesitated, seeing a waitress, beautiful and composed, daring to command a man twice her size. The tension was unbearable, every heartbeat a drum of suspense. From outside, Steele's voice echoed through the diner's walls. "We're not coming in. You leave, or we end this our way." Duke's face contorted with rage. "You think you scare me?" "I don't scare you," Maggie said softly, almost a whisper. "But I will make you regret underestimating me." A beat of silence. Then the serpents slowly, grudgingly, lowered their weapons. One by one, they turned and walked back to their motorcycles, muttering curses under their breath. Duke gave Maggie one last glare, then kicked his bike into gear, engines roaring as they disappeared into the desert. The patrons exhaled. Charlie slumped against the counter, shaking. "I don't even want to know how you did that." Maggie allowed herself a small smile. "Sometimes," she said, "the fiercest strength is staying calm and smart, not fighting with fists." Steele stepped into the diner, removing his helmet. His silver-streaked beard glimmered under the neon light. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "Better than I would have." She shook her head. "You would have taken them out. I wanted a clean solution." He took her hand gently. "You always were the smart one." The night settled into quiet afterward. The desert returned to its usual hum of insects and distant coyote calls. The diner glowed softly under the neon lights, a beacon of resilience. Maggie went behind the counter, wiping down tables one lay,